What's happening, gang? Live back in the Secret Stash. I love that little riff, my man Steve, engineer Steve. Always keeping it fresh here.
Yep.
Secret Stash, Real Talk Radio San Diego, hanging out with you live in studio, 1700 a.m. Lockdown from your 10 a.m. all the way till noon every Tuesday. Cool local people. Talking about some cool local stuff, leaving you a little better than how we found you. That's our game. Specifically, though, in studio this week, flanked by the man, the myth, the king of the ghetto, the man not a myth, my man Jeremy Beck.
Great.
Co-founder of the Greenhouse Group, mortgage planner extraordinaire.
Good to be here, my man.
Say hi to your fans. What are we doing this week, Jer?
You know what? We are doing, what do you call it? The state of the something?
The state of the market. State of the local
State of the market. That's
union.
what we're doing.
Yeah. We need a very presidential little clip to go behind
It
that.
would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure Steve's working on that.
Steve's got it queued up right away.
You know, what's interesting right now is talking a little bit about what everybody else is thinking, which is mortgage rates, right? How are these things going to affect prices, equity, affordability going up from here?
So we're getting right into it. So this is the State of the Union. We hashed out. We're not in a bubble.
Right.
Just a quick little recap. We're doing really good on numbers. Appreciation still got a good. So now this is the devil in the details, right? Because rates are the necessary evil, are they not?
They are, and they're a huge predictor of what it's going to cost you to buy your next home, finance your next mortgage.
So is this kind of more focused in on the gang of renters, like maybe the failure to launch millennials that are still sticking around? By the way, California Association of Realtors just announced that we're up 12% on that stat.
On what stat?
So the people who were living with their folks.
Yeah.
I should say we're down 12% on that stat. So 12% less people decided to live with their folks last month.
Okay.
Which is good.
Maybe their folks are like mine.
Yeah. Can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Kick.
So what about rents? Where let's start with rents. So like where are we at right now? Are rents going up? Are they going down? Are they staying neutral?
Rents, if you pan back far enough and you look at stuff, I'm looking at a chart right now that goes all the way back to 1988, and there's nothing but increase.
It looks like the face of Everest.
There's two little dips. And I mean, unless you happen to be renting for those couple of years where they were dipping, you're paying more and more every year. It's actually it's a frightening chart.
Yeah, the median is up to over what, $800, over $800.
And that's, and those are national numbers, so that doesn't even play out here.
Oh yeah. The rents here locally are insane.
I feel like no one ever says they pay less than $2,000 here. It's crazy.
What's funny about that, too, is that for the longest time, people would have to basically jump off their own fiscal cliff in order to afford something. Like, oh, my God, I got this comfortable little womb called my rent payment. Yeah. Oh, my God, I got to totally mortgage my entire lifestyle to get... Not necessarily the case right now.
No, you're not even doing like rent-to-own calculations for people. They already know renting sucks.
Yeah. And they're on their way up.
Yep.
So let's get into the numbers.
All right. Well, I've got a little chart here. It might not be applicable in terms of the purchase price for San Diego, but I like it still. So Freddie Mac did a little thing for us comparing 5% down to 20% down.
Okay, now this is big because last month on our State of the Union, we talked about how there's still an astronomically large chunk of people that still think you need 20% down to buy a house.
Not only do they think that, but even if they know you don't, they think it's very expensive not to. And this is what this chart really shows. So we're looking at a $200,000 purchase. And so
doesn't matter. The numbers
play
are
this
nominal,
out. Right. If you're talking about comparing a 5% down to a 20% down, the difference in just the extra cost of that is $80 a month. Now, the payment difference is $232 because you're borrowing more.
Okay.
But the actual payment, so the cost of it, having a mortgage insurance, which is what everybody seems to fear, $80 a month. So you either can wait till you have 20% down to buy a home, or you can buy now and pay a little bit of a cost.
Or how about, let's not even talk about the fact of whether you have 20% down or not. How about the difference between the actual down payment? Right. You're throttling yourself for an extra $30,000.
In this example. Right? So add triple
a multiplier.
That here.
Right, exactly. So it's not just the real cost that you're paying every month. It's also what you call the opportunity cost.
Most definitely.
Of where that $30,000 could either be buried in your backyard as dormant equity, or whether you could have it out like on a liquid side fund gaining you compound returns if you were so inclined.
And then the difference here is the difference in the payment over the next 12 months is $2,700, $2,800. So you're actually paying $2,800 more over the next 12 months. But if you waited instead to get that, you would have lost a potential $9,400 appreciation. So you actually lose by sitting on the wings.
And that's not being bullish.
No, that's very basic, 4.7% over the next 12 months.
Which we just spent the last segment talking about is right in alignment with even the bearish estimates.
So if you're convincing yourself that you need to wait to get a down payment because it will save you money, you may want to revisit those numbers. And someone can do that really easy by calling me, 858-863-0262.
Really?
858.
Yeah,
Sounds
you forgot
about
your
right.
own number, brother?
Yeah, we know. I don't call it very often.
So the question really becomes, first off, do you still believe that you need 20% down to buy a house? And even if you have the 20, is that even still your best option? And in reality, when you break that number with the actual math down of the numbers, what's it really hurting you? Not that much, right? So at 200, so granted, you're going to have the multiplier here locally, but 200, let's say you double that, that's still $500 a month difference.
Yeah, and I'll say it in a different way. Instead of thinking that you're losing money because you're paying more because you don't have the payment, think about the appreciation that you're foregoing and not receiving by not being a homeowner. That's where that calculation plays out, and that's a really intriguing and not super easy calculation to do for a lot of people. Like, if you're sitting down in an Excel spreadsheet, but it's a reality of why people with home ownership, and we talked about this, that wealth appreciation, that wealth accumulation over time, that's where people are missing out.
So yeah, you'll get hit. Like it'll penalize you a little bit, maybe as much as $2,800 or up, respectively. But you're missing out on $9,400 of appreciation. So your net upside down, what, $6,600? And
let me put this in a different way. This is interesting for even if you're a homeowner right now and you're thinking about moving up, the same calculation applies. If you're shorting yourself $100,000, $200,000 of home value, you're not getting that same equity if you're waiting for your home to get you enough to get that 20% down.
Say that one more time in a different way.
So someone may own a home and they think, I'm waiting for my home to go up in more value so I have equity to buy my next home.
Right.
Now, think about it in this way. If instead of waiting for your home to appreciate, which is smaller, presumably, than the next home
That's the key.
in value, you're foregoing whatever that spread in value is, that portion of appreciation. So let's call it 7%, 4% of that $100,000 to $200,000 more that home is worth.
Nicely done, my friend.
Thanks.
That's a big one.
It is.
So let's talk about the other side of that coin then. So forget about payments, forget about exhausted costs or opportunity, all that stuff. Let's punt on all that. Let's just talk about rates.
All right.
So where are we at right now and where we're heading to next?
People always ask me, what are rates going to do? And my blanket answer is go up. They have to over time. I mean, we're in an abnormal situation. So according to the major projections from the big Fannie, Freddie, Mortgage Bankers Association, National Association of Realtors, we start averaging all their estimates. And right now, their average right now for the fourth quarter of 2015 is estimated just over 4%, 4.18.
Okay, which is phenomenal.
Jump up just to 2016 Q1, the next quarter. They're projecting 4.38%. That's almost 0.25%.
Now, why do you think that is? What emboldens them in the first half of next year?
Yeah, well, one of the things that the Fed has already projected that they're going to start raising interest rates. That's going to raise short-term interest rates, and then that whole long conversation about how that affects long-term interest rates. But generally speaking, the market is improving. It's continuing to get a foundation, and most economists, people who are smart in this arena, think that we have to trend upward, and it's inevitably going to happen. By the third quarter of 2016, they're talking about 4.75%. That's more than 0.5% higher than where we are now. And let me give you a little number to make that sink in. San Diego, purchase price, $600,000.
Okay.
20% down payment's $120,000. At a rate of 3.75%, it's about what we're giving out right now, that's $2,200 a month. Okay? Now, if you go to 4%, that's just a quarter, and that's what they're talking about next quarter. 4%, that payment goes up $70 a month. Or, to put that in a reverse term, you'd need $135 down to keep the same payment instead of $120. You lost $15,000.
This is ridiculous.
That's big.
I mean, that's just 0.25% in our average market here in San Diego.
Right. Now, and you could easily juxtapose that statement and put a little bit more consciousness around it and say that there's nothing you can do about these rates, right? There's nothing that you and I are going to say here, anybody else who's participating in the market right now, it's going to have anything to do with the rates.
That's a good point.
It is what it is, right? Which is why you always have to base this conversation on the fundamentals of why you're doing what you're doing. That needs to transcend all space and time. Now, granted, inside of that, if you get down to the details, of course, we want you to get the best deal on the house, the lowest rate.
Right.
But ultimately, what it comes down to is if you're renting right now, you are in a very interesting situation where rents are going up. It's really, really cheap to borrow right now. And oh, by the way, prices are projected to continue to rise between now and 2019.
And you don't need a lot of money.
And you don't need a lot of money to get down. By the way, that's the last thing I want to end off with you. Is so first-time buyers have always been the biggest chunk. I shouldn't say always been. Recently, on the last several editions of the State of the Union, first-time buyers have been dominating. So do first-time buyers think that you need 20% down?
I mean, I think the word's out, right? You got a lot of people. 71% of first-time home buyers had down payments of 5% or less.
Yes!
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And that's just a very, I feel like it's a fairly recent phenomenon that we're seeing numbers that high in that arena.
So the other side of that then is probably what? FICO score, right? They probably think they need an 820 FICO score to get a good rate. Is that true too?
Median FICO score was 709. So that's a good score, but it's not insane. It's not the best score that there is. That's probably, I mean, it's the median FICO score for.
So do you have to have a 700 to buy?
Absolutely not. So 20% of those had a FICO score below 660.
Damn! That's not bad at all. So basically, you don't need 20% down. You can buy actually almost 3/4 of the segmented market of first-time buyers knew that stat, and almost 3/4 of them bought something with 5% down or less. Okay, or less, which is key. And then almost 1/4 of them had a FICO score of 660.
Yep.
Not too shabby, my man.
Yep. And remember, first-time home buyers are just someone who didn't own a home in the last 3 years. So these are people who might be recovering from a major derogatory event, foreclosures, short sales. Look, FHA only wants you to be out of your derogatory arena for 2 to 3 years. You don't even have to wait that long after having a major issue in your credit.
So, gang, if you're catching the theme right now, if the winds of the very, uncertain market right now, if the chatter around you is saying, oh, I don't know, maybe you missed it. So, first of all, there is apparently no bubble. Second of all, prices are still appreciating at a very healthy clip. Third of all, there's still money to go around right now, and you can actually buy something for super cheap. What I heard you say, 3.75-ish, somewhere around is where rates are trending right now for a 30-year fix. That's insane. And oh, by the way, on the other side, rents are going up at a clip faster than and locally even worse. Right? Gang, this might now be a good time, if you're in this conversation, to reach out to somebody who you believe and you trust might be able to help you. That might also be a good time to write down Jeremy's number. That's what he does over at the Greenhouse Group. He helps folks get into and out of homes, and he moves them with purpose by approaching it from a mortgage plan. So you might walk into your local bank. They might get you a pre-qualification. Well, that's going to expire probably after 30 days or 45 days after it's written. A mortgage plan lasts forever. And that's a strategy, and that's what Jeremy, how can they get in touch with you down there at the Greenhouse Group?
Easiest way, call me, 858-863-0262, or you can email me at my name, Jeremy, Jeremy, at greenmeansgrow, like a plant.
Green means grow, baby. And who knows? You might want to do some digging around on Jeremy first, just to make sure that some other clients who have worked with him before you would agree that he's a pretty good place to start. So I'd welcome you to go down, check out his website at thegreenhousegroupinc.com. And you can click on his name or any of the other members of the Greenhouse Group to make sure you think they're a good fit to start the process with as well. So, gang, coming up, final thoughts around the state of the local union with Jeremy on his, we'll call it the final take. And who knows, I might have something to chime in as well locally. Secret Stash Radio. We'll be right back.